Welcome back, everyone, to another video in our Unreal Engine 5 No-Code VR authoring platform tutorial series. I'm Craven, and I'll be guiding you step by step as we continue building immersive experiences together. In today's session, we're diving into one of Unreal Engine's foundational elements, working with content. Why is this so important? Because without content, your scene is just an empty space. Learning how to add, organize, and manipulate assets is key to bringing your virtual world to life. Now that you're comfortable navigating the editor, let's shift gears and explore how to manage content within it. Without assets, we're staring at a blank canvas. So let's walk through a few essential tips for working with assets in your scene. To begin, you need a level to work in. While this starting template provides a pre-made playground, it's best to create a new, clean level. Here's how to set that up. Go to File and click on New Level. A dialog box will pop up with several options, ranging from open world to a completely blank level. For our purposes, select Basic. This gives us a stripped-down level that still includes essential elements like lighting and a skybox. Once selected, click Create. If you've made any changes to the level you're currently on, Unreal will ask if you want to save them. Since we're not planning to modify the starter template, go ahead and click Don't Save. And just like that, you've got a fresh level ready for content creation. In the next steps, we'll start populating it with assets and bring your scene to life. Now that we've got our new level open, the first thing you'll want to do is save it right away. It's a good habit to get into early, especially as your project grows. Next up, let's start adding some content to our scene. There are two main ways to do this, and I'll walk you through both. Method 1. Quick Add from the toolbar. Look up at the toolbar and find the icon that looks like a little cube with a green plus sign. That's your Quick Add button. Click it and you'll see a drop-down menu packed with options. You'll get familiar with many of these as we go, but for now, let's keep it simple. Scroll down to the Shapes section, then click and drag a cube into your scene. Once it's placed, you'll notice a widget with arrows attached to it. This is your Transform gizmo, and it lets you move the object around. We'll explore that tool more deeply in the next segment. Method 2. Using the content browser. Now let's look at another way to bring assets into your scene through the content browser. To open it, click the Content Drawer button near the bottom of the editor. From here, navigate into the UE default folder, then down into Starter Content and Props. Inside the Props folder, you'll find a variety of assets you can use to populate your level. For now, look for anything labeled Static Mesh. You'll see this at the bottom of the thumbnail and at the top of the tooltip when you hover over an item. These are 3D objects, just like the cube we added earlier, and they're ready to be dropped right into your scene. Alright, now that we've added some content to our scene, it's time to learn how to transform it, starting with movement. Just like the cube, our chair comes with a set of arrows attached to it. This is called the Move widget, and it's part of Unreal's core transform tools. If you've worked with any 3D modeling software before, these tools will feel familiar. Unreal gives you 4 main transformation options: Select, Move, Rotate, and Scale. The shortcuts to access them are Q for Select, W for Move, E to Rotate, and R for Scale. And don't worry, if you ever forget those hotkeys, just hover your mouse over their icons to see them again. Let's look at the Move tool. When you activate the Move tool by pressing W, you'll see 3 arrows. Each one represents an axis in 3D space, X, Y, and Z. Click and drag an arrow to move the object along a single axis. Click one of the small squares between arrows to move along 2 axes at once. Click the center of the widget to move freely in all 3 directions. Personally, I find myself using the squares most often. It's a great way to move objects across a flat plane with precision. Also, here's a pro tip. Hold down Shift while moving an object, and the camera will follow along with it. It's a subtle trick that makes positioning assets feel more intuitive. Next up, let's check out the Rotate tool. Press E to switch to the Rotate tool. You'll notice the widget changes, and the toolbar highlights the active tool. These icons are clickable too, in case you forget a shortcut. The Rotate tool lets you spin objects around each of the 3 axes. It's perfect for adjusting orientation and getting things lined up just right. Finally, let's take a look at how to scale objects. Hit R to activate the Scale tool. You can scale along individual axes, but most of the time, You'll probably use the center of the widget to scale uniformly, keeping proportions intact while resizing. Before moving on, there's one more important concept to understand when transforming assets: world space versus local space. You'll see a little globe icon in the toolbar. That represents world space. When this mode is active, any movement, rotation, or scaling you apply to an object is based on the global coordinate system of the entire scene. So no matter how the object is rotated, it will always respond in relation to the world's axis. Now, if you click that icon, you'll toggle into local space. In this mode, transformations are based on the object's own orientation. That means if the object is rotated, your movement and rotation will follow its internal axis, not the world's. As you get more comfortable working in the viewport, you'll find yourself switching between these two modes often. Each has its advantages depending on what you're trying to achieve. You might have also noticed something else while we've been moving, rotating, and scaling objects. The changes happen in small amounts, almost like snapping to a grid. That brings us to our next topic: snapping, which helps keep your transformations clean, precise, and consistent. Let's talk about snapping, one of the most powerful tools for precision in Unreal Engine. Snapping is all about applying constraints to your transformations. Instead of moving objects freely, snapping lets you shift them in fixed increments, say 10 centimeters at a time, or even 100. This helps keep everything aligned and consistent, especially when you're building structured environments. By the way, Unreal Engine uses the metric system, where one Unreal unit equals 1 centimeter. So when you're adjusting movement, rotation, or scale, those numbers directly reflect real-world measurements. Alright, let's look at the snapping controls in the toolbar. Look up at the viewport toolbar and you'll see snapping options for move, rotate, and scale. The icon on the left toggles snapping on or off. Blue means snapping is active, gray means it's disabled. The number next to it shows the current snap value. Click it to open a drop-down and choose a different increment. While turning snapping off gives you more freeform control, don't underestimate how useful snapping can be. Whether you're designing a game level or laying out a virtual film set, snapping helps you stay organized and efficient. In the industry, this is referred to as working on the grid. Let's quickly go over some advanced snapping tricks. Hold down the V key while moving an object, and it will snap to a vertex on another mesh. For example, you can use this to perfectly center a chair on top of a cube. But what if your cube is rotated and you want the chair to match its orientation? That's where surface snapping comes in. In the toolbar, click the surface snapping icon and enable Rotate to Surface Normal. Now, when you hold down V, you're not just snapping to the cube's surface location, you're also matching its rotation. It's a quick way to align objects naturally to angled surfaces. Okay, now let's talk about a simple but powerful feature: grouping. This allows you to combine multiple objects so they behave as a single unit, making it easier to move and manage them in your scene. To start, hold down Control or Command on a Mac and click on each object you want to include in the group. Once they're selected, press Ctrl+G or Command+G to group them together. Now when you move one, the whole group moves with it. Super handy for organizing complex scenes. Need to break them apart later? Just hit Shift+G to ungroup them and regain individual control. Grouping is a great way to keep your workflow tidy and efficient, especially when you're working with clusters of props or modular pieces. Let's take a look at duplication, one of the fastest ways to build out your scene efficiently. In Unreal Engine, you can quickly duplicate an object right in the viewport by holding down Alt or Option on a Mac and dragging the object. It's a simple gesture, but incredibly powerful. This method is much faster than repeatedly pulling new copies from the content browser, and it gives you more precise control than using standard copy-paste commands, though those are still available if you prefer. Getting comfortable with Alt plus drag duplication is a game changer for speeding up your workflow. Once it becomes second nature, you'll find yourself building complex environments in a fraction of the time. Here's a practical example. Let's say you've placed a table and arranged chairs around it. You group them together, then Alt-drag to duplicate the entire setup. Ungroup the new copy, make a few tweaks to the chair positions, regroup it, and just like that, you've created a second table arrangement with subtle variations. Repeat that process a few times, and you've built out an entire restaurant layout in minutes, all while keeping things visually interesting and spatially consistent. To wrap things up, let's take a closer look at one of the most powerful tools in the Unreal Editor, the Details panel. This is where you fine-tune everything about an object in your scene. Start by selecting any asset in the viewport. On the right-hand side, the Details panel will populate with editable properties specific to that object. Right at the top, you'll see the Transform section, which displays the object's location, rotation, and scale as precise numerical values. This is incredibly useful when you need exact control over positioning or sizing. Let's take a closer look at uniform versus non-uniform scaling. Notice the padlock icon next to the scale values. When the lock is enabled, scaling happens uniformly across all axes, just like dragging from the center of the scale widget. When the lock is disabled, you can adjust each axis independently for more customized shaping. You'll also see a mobility drop-down. This determines whether the object is static, movable, or stationary, which is important for performance and lighting behavior. Below the transform settings, you'll find the static mesh field. This is where you can swap out the geometry of an object without replacing the entire actor. Here's a quick example. Drag a cube into your scene. Select a chair from the viewport. Click the folder icon with a magnifying glass to locate the chair's mesh in the content browser. Shortcut, Ctrl+B. Now go back to the cube and click the circular arrow icon next to the mesh field to assign the chair mesh to the cube actor. You'll notice the mesh updates, but the actor name in the outliner still says cube. That's because we've only changed the mesh it references, not the actor itself. The material might also look different since it's still using the cube's original material. Want to match the material too? Select the chair and use the Find in Browser button to locate its material. Then go back to the cube, now a chair, and assign that material manually. Now you might be thinking, why not just Alt-drag a copy of the chair instead? And you'd be right, that's usually faster. But this workflow shines when you want to swap materials on existing actors without replacing them entirely. Let's try it with walls. Head to the starter content and into your architecture folder. Drag a 400 by 400 wall into your scene. Set your snapping to 500 centimeters for clean placement. Duplicate the wall twice to create a row. Now go to the starter content and then the materials folder. You'll find a variety of materials to experiment with. To apply one, just drag it directly from the content browser onto the wall. Easy as that. That was a lot to take in. Great work sticking with it. Now's the perfect time to jump into the editor and start experimenting. Try adding a few assets from the starter content pack, or if you're feeling adventurous, you can check out some of the asset packs in the Fab folder inside your content browser. Play around with different materials and get a feel for how everything fits together. Take your time exploring and getting comfortable with the tools we covered. In our next video, we'll move on to lighting, where we'll learn how to bring depth, mood, and realism to your scene. I'll see you in the next video.